So Tna Impact took place in Cincinnati, Ohio. The show starts with Dixie Carter walking arm in arm with Cincinnati Bengals cornerback Adam Jones backstage, and they are accompanied by Dixie's goons. Mr. Anderson appears and tells Dixie that he wants a match with Bully Ray. After promising that he wouldn't cause any more problems, she gives him the match, but she tells him that he has to take it to Bully Ray. She introduces Anderson to Jones, and Dixie leaves with Jones and the goons. So, Adam Jones is the former TNA World Champion that Dixie had yacked about returning to Impact. He is a former World Tag Team Champion, and it's ridiculous to even say that, but that's it. Heel character or not, Dixie continues to search for the credibility that she wishes she had. So then we see the Main Event Mafia come to the ring. Sting takes the mic and says that he formed the Main Event Mafia for two reasons: to dethrone Bully Ray as world champion and to keep Aces and Eights at bay. He says that those two goals were met, but they as a group went through some hard times in the process. Because of that, Sting says that the Main Event Mafia will break up for now. He acknowledges his failure to make it into the world title tournament in the gauntlet match, but he praises Magnus for winning the match by doing what he needed to do. And Sting goes to Kurt Angle, then Samoa Joe, and then Magnus, and tells each of them that he is going to become world champion. Sting says that he has to deal with wrestlers in the back who feel that they are entitled and that they are owed everything in this business without having to work for it. He says that he was taught to respect the business and the wrestlers before him. Sting hugs each guy and tells him that he loves him, but with Magnus he adds a few slaps to the chest. Sting passes the mic to Joe and leaves. Joe says that he was proud to support the Main Event Mafia, but the fans need to see him as world champion again. He says that the goal begins with his match against Magnus and would continue with a possible match against Angle. And Joe says to Angle and Magnus that he is better off being against them than being with them, and he leaves. Magnus gets on the mic and tells Angle that he respects his effort to redeem himself and that he is the best wrestler ever. He says that he is on the same road as Angle, but his road is headed toward destiny. And Magnus tells Angle that he loves him, but he will beat him soundly if they meet in the tournament and go on to become world champion. Magnus hands the mic to Angle and leaves. Angle says that he agrees with Sting about breaking up the group and pursuing individual goals, namely winning the world title, so that he can consider himself worthy of the TNA Hall of Fame. Angle recalls choosing to wrestle despite the doctor's advice, which resulted in his being knocked out again in his last match with Robert Roode. Angle says that he spoke with his own physician and he had positive words for him. However, Robert Roode comes to the ring. Roode says that Angle should stop making excuses and admit that he was beaten by him twice. He says that if they meet in the final match of the tournament for the title, Angle will lose for a third time. Angle tells Roode that his first tournament match is against Austin Aries, but if they do meet in the final, Roode belongs to him. Angle says that maybe he doesn't want to wait until then, and he hits Roode. They start brawling and rolling around on the mat until the refs and two of the Goonies come out to separate them. Angle gets free and spears Roode, and they're back down on the mat going into the commercial break. Back to Sting. I seem to recall that the second goal of the Main Event Mafia was to get rid of Aces and Eights, not keep them at bay, but whatever. The breakup of the Main Event Mafia was needed because Magnus is about to move into championship pursuit mode, and he doesn't need to be bogged down by a group. None of them do, but especially him. Sting mentioning the pursuit of those who are entitled seems to be hinting at a possible program between himself and Ethan Carter III. But Sting doesn't need to be competing in a wrestling ring anymore. I thought that the Rude Angle confrontation was good, and it is clearly telegraphing a possible meeting between the two in the World Title Tournament final, but I can excuse it because their program build has been working extremely well. Coming off the commercial break, we see Angle sitting in the ring by himself. Angle says that he's not going anywhere until Rude comes out and that he's a bitch if he doesn't. Rude comes out again and they start brawling on the ramp. They end up rolling on the floor outside the ring, and they are separated once again by refs, goons, and TNA agents. Angle is forced back up the ramp by 4 refs and a goon, while Rude stands in the ring being held back by Al Snow and Simon Diamond. Angle breaks away, runs to the ring, and collides with Rude again. They are separated again, but this time Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, Magnus, and Samoa Joe are added to the breakup mob. Angle and Rude try to go at each other once again, but this time the mob keeps them apart for good. Then, for some unknown, unexplainable, and supposedly random reason, Bad Influence starts jawjacking at ringside with Adam Jones and DeQuinn Evans, who is on the Cincinnati Bengals practice squad. Daniels and Kazarian shove them, and Jones and Evans run into the ring to confront them. Then we see Jones and Evans body slam Daniels and Kazarian, and Bad Influence retreats. Now, this was great intensification between Rude and Angle, and it only builds the anticipation for that tournament final matchup even more. Alright, I get it. They're in Cincinnati. Adam Jones, I get it. But why must TNA continue to make their best tag team look bad? They already have Bad Influence chumping it up with dumbass Joseph Park and Eric Young, but they have them jobbed to Adam Jones, and a practice squad player who should cherish the national TV time that he got, because he certainly won't be getting it wearing a Bengals uniform during a game unless he gets lucky. TNA's new creative direction shouldn't include continuing to do desperate things like this to try to get on SportsCenter. So then we see Garrett Bischoff and Mike Knox backstage going down the stairs. Bischoff says that the state of Aces and Eights is no one's concern, and Knox concurs. Mr. Anderson appears at the top of a flight of stairs and says that he just wants to face Bully Ray in a match with no club politics involved. He says that he understands why they attacked him last week, and that when he lost his vest, it was something that he needed. Anderson tells Bischoff and Knox to get out of the group. So then we had a number 1 contenders match for the Women's Championship. Brooke Tessmacher versus Velvet Sky versus ODB. Decent match. The match ends with ODB body slamming Tessmacher on top of Velvet, then going outside the ring to confront Gail Kim and Lady Tapa, who came out earlier. Tessmacher kicks ODB down from behind and slugs her outside the ring, but gets hit with a wrist line from Velvet. Velvet tosses both Tessmacher and ODB back into the ring and goes for a pin attempt on Tessmacher, but she kicks out. Velvet tries to pin ODB but fails. Velvet whips Tessmacher off the ropes, but Tessmacher grabs her arm with a twist and comes back with a short arm clothesline. As Tessmacher walks to the corner, Gail and Tapa move to a new position at ringside. Tessmacher goes to the top rope and comes off with a cross body block on both Velvet and ODB. Then both Gail and Tapa get up on the ring apron. Velvet moves toward them, but Tessmacher hits her from behind and follows with a forearm. She tries to whip Velvet off the ropes, but Velvet hangs on and delivers 3 kicks to the midsection. Tessmacher comes off the ropes from the opposite side, but Velvet kicks her again and sets her up for the in your face. Gail comes into the ring, hits Velvet from behind, and then nails her with the Eat Defeat. Tapa is now in the ring, and Gail orders her to take a hold of Tessmacher. As Tapa executes a fireman's carry cutter on Tessmacher, ODB tosses Gail out of the ring. ODB and Tapa come face to face and touch foreheads, but then ODB comes at Tapa with a combo of punches and open-handed chops. ODB comes off the ropes, but Tapa catches her by the throat and delivers another fireman's carry cutter on ODB. Gail grabs the mic and says that she has defeated all her contenders and no longer has any competition. She says that with Tapa as her enforcer, no one can stop her. Gail issues an open challenge to any female wrestler outside of TNA and says that anyone who can beat her will receive a title shot. Now, this match was clearly a setup for Gail's open challenge, and I'm fine with that because TNA has finally taken that positive step with the women's division that should have happened months ago by bringing in new female wrestlers. Now, TNA will likely bring in more than a few women for Gail to squash in order to build up the challenge. A couple who could eventually join the division. But then that one serious challenger will come in and beat Gail in order to get the title shot. And Gail will finally have that fresh face threat to the belt. And that's the restart for rebuilding the women's division. I still don't like what they're not doing with Tapa, and that's putting her in the ring. Once they do that, she can shake off the green that shouldn't have been there anyway. So then we see a video segment of AJ Styles going to Mexico to quote-unquote defend his title against El Mesias of the AAA wrestling promotion. Good showcase of cross-promotion, but the quote-unquote title defense would feel more legitimate if Styles were still the recognized champion. So then we see Garrett Bischoff and Mike Knox backstage. And Bischoff says that Mr. Anderson might be right, and Knox agrees. Bully Ray comes into the shot and wants to know who's right. And Bischoff tells Bully Ray that it's just talk. Bully Ray tells Bischoff and Knox that he knows everything that's happening that involves aces and eights and mentions the talk that Anderson had with them. He says that the club was formed for them, not him. Bischoff disagrees, saying that they haven't had a vote on anything lately. Bully Ray says that they vote on all club issues, but Knox says that it has been about Bully Ray's decisions, not votes. And then Bully Ray says that it has been that way because he is the president. Bischoff says that they need to act as a group, but Knox states that they are going to vote, whether Bully Ray wants to or not. And as Knox and Bischoff leave, Bully Ray grabs Bischoff and tells him to vote the right way. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage on the phone. She is complaining about the Styles video being shown on the air, and she wants the person on the other end to fix the situation so that he no longer embarrasses her. Ethan Carter III enters. Dixie tells him that he's doing a great job, but he needs to switch it up. She tells him to pick his own opponent for his match later. Ethan says that he is concerned that he will lose for the first time because of the choices from which he has to pick. And Dixie tells him that he can't allow that to happen. Insert lame catchphrase, etc. So then we see Garrett Bischoff and Mike Knox in the ring. Bischoff says that it's time to vote on whether Aces and Eights survives or not. He calls Taz into the ring and then tells Bully Ray to do the same. Bully Ray grabs the mic from Bischoff and does his signature line. Bischoff snatches the mic back and tells Bully Ray that everyone knows who he is. He says that Bully Ray has wrecked the club because it has been all about him instead of the club, and because of that, this vote will happen. Then Mr. Anderson's music plays and he comes to the ring. Bully Ray yells at Anderson, accusing him of influencing Bischoff and Knox. Anderson simply says that he is only there to watch. Bischoff votes himself out of the group, takes his vest off, and hangs it on the corner post. Bully Ray tells Knox that he could always rely on him because he has been the cornerstone of the group, and that they should properly expel Bischoff from Aces and Eights. Knox tells Bully Ray that he doesn't need him, the group, or his vest. He takes his vest off and hangs it on another corner post. Bully Ray says that's fine with him because the vote is going to be a tie, and since a tie favors him, he is going to decide that the club stays intact. He says that Taz is going to vote the same way because he does what he's told. Taz takes the mic and tells Bully Ray to slow down. He says that he and Bully Ray have always done things properly and that Bully Ray has chosen to follow his own program. Taz says that everyone is right, and he chooses to leave as well. He takes off his vest and hands it to Bully Ray. Bully Ray tells Taz to put his vest back on, and Taz says that Bully Ray will have to force him to do it. As Bully Ray turns his hat backwards, Bischoff and Knox leave the ring. He repeats his order to Taz, but Taz says the same thing. Bully Ray turns to Anderson and says that he is the cause of this, and Anderson tells Bully Ray that he no longer has anyone to control. He follows that by saying that Dixie Carter has given the go for a no disqualification match between himself and Bully Ray at Turning Point. Bully Ray tells Anderson that he has despised him since he joined the club. But then he says that he can't figure out how Anderson forgot to never trust anyone. Bischoff and Knox attack Anderson from behind and proceed to beat him down. Bischoff throws him into the ring. He lifts Anderson up and shoves him into a big boot from Knox. Bully Ray proceeds to whip Anderson with the chain and leaves him looking zonked. Even though the end of Aces and Eights did not take place, I liked the segment because of the tension created, which led to the swerve. It was positive juice that was put behind the anticipation of the matchup between Bully Ray and Mr. Anderson at Turning Point. So then we see Robert Roode come to the commentator's table. He grabs the mic and says that Angle will get his ass kicked, and he demands that Tna or Taz get Angle to come out. And that leads into the rematch from the October 24th edition of Impact that has consumed TNA fans so much that they haven't been able to see straight for 2 weeks. Ethan Carter III versus Dewey Barnes. Ethan wins the match with the headlock driver. It's time to put some advancement behind Ethan and have him face someone on the roster. So then we see Bad Influence backstage with dumbass Joseph Park and Eric Young. Is it really necessary to go on about what happened? No? Okay. So then we had Bad Influence versus dumbass Joseph Park and Eric Young. Okay, match. The match ends with Daniels and Kazarian whipping Young off the ropes, but Young reverses the whip on Kazarian. Kazarian comes off the ropes and attempts to clothesline Young, but Young ducks, causing Kazarian to clothesline Daniels. Young clotheslines Kazarian and makes the tag to Park. Park batters Daniels and Kazarian with a series of knockdowns and body slams. Park smashes Daniels in the corner and comes toward Kazarian in the opposite corner, but Kazarian moves out of the way. Kazarian goes to the top rope and comes off with a missile dropkick, but Park avoids it. Park applies a Boston Crab on Kazarian, but Daniels comes off the ropes and hits Park with a blow from behind. Young hits Daniels with a punch that sends him out of the ring. Young follows Daniels and starts wailing away. He whips Daniels, but Daniels reverses the whip, sending Young into the ring steps. Daniels picks up the timekeeper's hammer and moves toward Young, but referee Earl Hebner stops his progress. Daniels tosses the hammer and picks up his signature drink from ringside instead. Park picks Kazarian up in a standing fireman's carry position, and Daniels throws the drink in Park's face. The alcoholic beverage is powerful enough to allow Park to fall back and be rolled up by Kazarian in a crucifix pin for the 3. The winners of the match, Bad Influence. TNA, in order to correct the mistake that you made at Bound for Glory by putting the tag team belts on the glorified jobbers, you need to quietly end this quote-unquote program as soon as possible. So then we see Kurt Angle come down the ramp. He tells Robert Roode to come out, but instead Austin Aries comes out. Aries says that he can understand Angle wanting to get at Roode, but he reminds him of their match next week. Aries says that Angle will lose to him if he's not fully prepared. Dixie Carter appears on the big screen with her Wheel of Dixie. She spins the wheel, and the gimmick for Angle versus Aries will be a submission match. Aries wishes Angle good luck and backs up the ramp. Robert Roode knocks Aries down as he comes down the ramp and engages with Angle again. Roode gains the advantage, rams Angle's head into the ring steps, and pounds away at him. Aries hits Roode from behind and they start going at it. Angle pulls Aries away and goes after Roode again. He starts getting the better of Roode until Aries goes after Angle. By this time, the mob comes out to break it up. Well, I see that they have a new wheel, but at least this time they got an electronic wheel so that they don't have to turn the camera away because they can stop it where they want it to stop. The concept is still lame, but at least it will look believable. This segment not only added gas to the inferno that is Roode Angle, but it gave a nice push for the match next week between Angle and Aries, so it worked out properly. So then we had the main event, first round match in the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament, a Full Metal Mayhem match, Jeff Hardy versus Chris Sabin. Good match. The match ends with Sabin lying on a table outside the ring and Hardy coming off the top rope with a splash. Sabin moves out of the way and Hardy goes through the table. Sabin tosses Hardy back in the ring and sets up another table. He puts Hardy on the table and goes to the top rope. Sabin comes off with a splash, but Hardy gets his knees up as the table breaks underneath both of them. Sabin tries to take a hold of Hardy, but Hardy kicks him in the midsection and executes the twist of fate. Hardy sets up a ladder in the corner and delivers the Swanton Bomb over the top of the ladder, getting the 3. The winner of the match, Jeff Hardy. And he will face the winner of the Robert Roode James Storm match in the semi-final. While Hardy celebrates, Sabin is tended to by backstage personnel as well as Velvet Sky. Show ends. The definition of gimmick is a trick or device intended to attract attention, publicity, or business. In wrestling, a gimmick match is primarily used as an enhancer to a conclusion. Technically, the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament is a gimmick. Go back to the definition. Isn't that the intention of the tournament? TNA should have sold the tournament and the wrestlers in the tournament as the gimmick, not these gimmick matches that are not necessary. Sometimes taking the easiest road to a destination is not as simple as just getting there. I'm Taskmark 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for November 7th, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below, click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, you can leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments about TNA or wrestling in general, you can reach me on Twitter, Tazmark2002. That's TAZMARK 2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email. Tazmark2002@gmail.com. And be sure to listen to the TNA Impact review that I do with Chuck P every Friday morning at 11:30 Eastern Time on Chuck P's channel. And if you haven't checked his channel out, give him a look. Good show. Good show. Once the TNA World Championship situation is resolved and there is one recognized champion, there is hope that a particular occurrence is seen once again. A true world champion. Seeing the TNA World Champion regularly defend his title in other countries against contenders in those countries would be the redefinition that TNA needs. It shouldn't end there. What about doing the same for the World Tag Team Championship and the Women's Championship? Of course, those divisions need rebuilding, but the possibilities resulting would be incredible. If TNA's new creative direction figures those scenarios into their plan, the future looks bright on paper. But a great plan means nothing without the execution that equals it. I'm Tazmark 2002. Gone.